Disrespect is never loud in the beginning. It doesn't storm in screaming your name. It slips in quietly. A raised eyebrow, a half smile, a joke that lands just a little too sharp, a tone that carries contempt without words. Miss it once, and the balance has already shifted. Because disrespect doesn't need permission twice. It only needs silence the first time. Most people wave it off. They laugh awkwardly. They tell themselves they're being mature, that it's not worth reacting, that they don't want to seem sensitive. But Machiavelli would call that fatal ignorance. He understood a reality that comforts no one. The world does not reward patience in the face of disrespect. It exploits it. Respect is not something you wait for. It is not something you earn through goodness. It is something you enforce through consequence. When someone disrespects you, they are not attacking your personality. They are probing your defenses. They are running a silent audit on your strength. They are asking one question: what happens if I cross this person? And every time you let it slide, you give them the answer. Nothing happens. I've spent years watching power move between people. Not in books, not in theory, in offices, in families, in friendships, in rooms where nobody admits a hierarchy exists, but everyone obeys it. And here's the truth. The people who get pushed around are rarely the weakest. They are the least aware. They don't realize they are being evaluated in every interaction. They confuse kindness with self-erasure. They confuse patience with submission. They confuse silence with dignity. In a world driven by competition for attention, status, opportunity, and leverage, excessive niceness is interpreted as vulnerability. It tells the wrong people that you won't retaliate, that you won't impose cost, that you are safe to test again and again and again. Today, we're not discussing emotional reactions. We're not talking about shouting, arguing, or proving anything. That's what powerless people do when they finally snap. This is about cold authority. This is about becoming someone who is never an easy target to begin with. You're about to learn 5 psychological strategies that alter how people instinctively treat you. Not because you demand respect, but because disrespect becomes inconvenient around. These aren't comforting ideas. They won't make everyone like you. They aren't meant to. They are meant to work. By the end of this video, you'll understand why silence unsettles people more than confrontation, why repetition creates intimidation, and why the most powerful individuals are those who appear emotionally unreachable. You'll learn how to decode disrespect as intelligence and convert it into leverage. This is not about becoming cruel. It's about becoming expensive to disrespect. Before we continue, drop this in the comments. Disrespect sharpens my awareness. Now think about this honestly. How many times have you replayed a moment in your head, hours later, thinking of everything you should have said? How many times did your body feel it immediately, but your mouth stayed quiet? How many times did you walk away frustrated, not because of what they said, but because you let it happen? That cycle ends here. The hidden nature of disrespect. Most people expect disrespect to be obvious, direct, aggressive. They think it arrives as confrontation. That's how amateurs play. Intelligent disrespect is covert. It hides behind humor. It disguises itself as concern. It wears the mask of familiarity. It's the colleague who interrupts you, but only when you speak. The friend who mocks you, then says, "Relax, I'm joking." The family member who dismisses your ideas without ever engaging them. Here's the pattern. First, they test lightly, a harmless jab, a small tease. They watch your reaction closely. If you smile, deflect, or ignore it, they log the result. Next time they go further, more personal, more frequent, still subtle enough that calling it out feels awkward. And this is where most people fail. They tolerate it to avoid tension. They don't want to seem dramatic, but what they're actually doing is training someone how to treat them. Over time, the disrespect becomes normalized. You are interrupted without apology. Your opinions are brushed aside. Your presence is devalued. And if you finally speak up later, you look like the problem because you allowed the behavior to settle. Machiavelli understood this well. In his world, weakness invited destruction. Today, it invites exploitation. The principle is the same. Here's the hard truth. Silence at the wrong moment is endorsement. Laughing at your own humiliation is permission. Letting it slide this once rewrites your boundaries as suggestions. This is why hierarchy forms even when nobody admits it exists. It's not declared, it's negotiated, moment by moment. Most people react emotionally. A few respond strategically. You are learning to be one of the few. Rule 1. Strategic silence. Silence is one of the most misunderstood tools in power dynamics. Most people believe silence means weakness. They assume that if you don't respond immediately, you've already lost. That belief alone keeps millions of people trapped in reactive behavior for their entire lives. But there are two kinds of silence, and confusing them is costly. Weak silence comes from fear. It's the silence of someone who feels cornered, unsure, emotionally shaken. This silence leaks insecurity. People sense it instantly. They notice the lack of eye contact, the tightened posture, the forced smile. They feel the hesitation underneath. And when people sense hesitation, they push harder. Weak silence doesn't diffuse pressure. It invites more of it. Strategic silence is the opposite. Strategic silence comes from authority. It is not accidental. It is not forced. It is chosen. When you use strategic silence, you are not retreating. You are assessing. You are signaling that the interaction has paused because you decided it should pause. That shift alone reverses the power dynamic. Instead of you reacting to them, they are now waiting on you. This kind of silence communicates evaluation. It says, without words, I am deciding how much access you deserve. When someone disrespects you and you suddenly stop speaking, while remaining fully present, grounded, and composed, you introduce psychological tension into the situation. Humans are deeply uncomfortable with unresolved social moments. Silence creates a vacuum, and most people panic when they feel one. Their instinct is to repair it immediately. When you don't rush to fill that space, the discomfort transfers to them. Their mind begins to spiral. Did I cross a line? Did I misjudge this person? Did I just make a mistake? What are they going to do now? This uncertainty is powerful. Uncertainty creates caution. Caution slows behavior, and slowed behavior is easier to control. Most people rely on predictability. They count on emotional reactions, defensiveness, jokes, explanations, anger. When you give them none of that, you disrupt their script. They no longer know which version of you they're dealing with. And unpredictability makes people nervous. This is where posture matters, both internal and external. Internally, you are calm. You are not replaying their words. You are not scrambling for a response. You are simply observing. You are deciding whether this person has earned further engagement or whether the interaction ends here. Externally, your body remains still. Your expression is neutral. Your eye contact is steady. There is no flinch, no rush, no emotional leakage. You look like someone who has dealt with this before and knows exactly what it means. This is not freezing. This is not avoidance. This is controlled restraint. Silence, used this way, becomes a psychological mirror. It forces the other person to confront their own behavior without you lifting a finger. Often, they will backtrack. They will explain themselves. They may even apologize without you asking for it. And even if they don't, something still shifts. They remember the moment. They remember how it felt. They remember that their usual tactics didn't work on you. Silence is not the absence of power. Silence is the application of power. It is the pause that says, you may have miscalculated. Affirm it. My silence carries authority. Rule 2. Relentless consistency. One strong response means nothing if the next one collapses. Power is not built in moments of intensity. It is built in patterns. And patterns only exist when behavior repeats without exception. Most people believe a single confrontation sets a boundary. It doesn't. It only announces one. Boundaries are not defined by what you say once. They're defined by what you enforce every time. Human beings do not respect rules that change based on mood, context, or convenience. They probe them, they test them, they push gently at first, then harder, waiting to see where resistance weakens. Any fluctuation becomes an opening. This is why inconsistent people are constantly challenged, and why consistent people are rarely tested. Inconsistency creates hope. Hope that this time will be different. Hope that maybe today you let it slide. Hope that the consequences aren't real. And that hope is what fuels repeated disrespect. Consistency destroys hope. Every time someone disrespects you, your response must be identical. Not similar, identical. The same emotional temperature, the same calm delivery, the same consequence. No escalation, no exception, no negotiation. Not loud, not dramatic, just firm, just final. This rule applies everywhere, not just in obvious confrontations. Interruptions that steal your voice, dismissive tones that signal superiority, passive-aggressive remarks disguised as humor, subtle contempt hidden in body language and timing. Each one receives the same response every time. When people know exactly what happens when they cross you, they stop experimenting. There's no curiosity left, no slot machine effect, no maybe this time. The outcome is known and unwanted. That predictability is what creates restraint. Most people think consistency is harsh. It isn't. In fact, it's merciful. It removes confusion. It eliminates emotional guessing. It tells people clearly where they stand and what behavior is acceptable. Chaos comes from inconsistency, not firmness. People feel safest around those whose standards are stable, even if those standards are high. They know the rules, they know the cost, and because of that, they adjust. Relentless consistency doesn't make you cold, it makes you unmovable. Affirm it. My standards never bend. Rule 3. Disproportionate consequences. Equal reactions are forgettable. They blend into the background of everyday conflict. They teach nothing. Behavior only changes when the consequence is felt, not just noticed. If someone disrespects you and you respond in kind, matching tone, trading words, escalating emotionally, it becomes noise. Just another argument, just another clash of egos. Nothing about it stands out. Nothing about it reshapes future behavior. But when disrespect is met with loss, the brain records it. Withdrawal creates memory. Distance creates reflection. Loss of access creates recalibration. You don't argue because arguments keep people engaged. You don't explain because explanations reward bad behavior with attention. You don't escalate emotionally because emotion gives them influence. Instead, you escalate cost. You remove yourself from their presence. You shorten responses. You change availability. You revoke access they assumed was guaranteed. This shift is powerful because it's unexpected. Most people prepare for confrontation. Very few prepare for silence, distance, or indifference that lasts. And duration matters. A consequence that ends quickly teaches nothing. A consequence that lingers forces the other person to sit with uncertainty. It gives their mind time to replay the moment, to connect cause and effect, to associate disrespect with loss. The punishment must last longer than the offense. Not to be cruel, but to be clear. You are not punishing to hurt. You are conditioning to prevent repetition. Once someone associates crossing you with a lasting cost, their behavior changes automatically. No speeches required. No warnings needed. Affirm it. My responses leave a lasting imprint. Rule 4. The image you project. People decide how to treat you before you ever speak. Before words, there is presence. Before arguments, there is energy. Before boundaries, there is image. Your pacing communicates value. Your selectiveness communicates standards. Your composure communicates control. Powerful people are not overly available. They don't rush to respond. They don't chase validation. They don't feel the need to justify every decision or smooth every interaction. They don't negotiate boundaries that were never meant to be debated. They are calm, not passive, but grounded, Measured, not distant, but deliberate. Consistent, not rigid, but predictable. Their behavior signals that consequences are normal for them. Routine, nothing personal, just how their world works. And because of that, disrespect rarely escalates around them. It dies early, sometimes before it even starts. People instinctively self-correct. They adjust their tone. They think twice. They sense that mistakes won't be dramatic, but they will be costly. This isn't intimidation, it's clarity. Your image tells people whether they are dealing with someone reactive or someone decisive, someone who tolerates friction or someone who resolves it quietly and permanently. Presence sets the ceiling for how others behave. Affirm it. My presence commands respect. Rule 5. Disrespect as intelligence. This is the highest level of awareness. Most people fail here because they react emotionally. Powerful people observe. Disrespect is not an insult. It is information. Every slight, every dismissive tone, every subtle dig is a signal, revealing intent, hierarchy perception, and hidden motivation. When someone disrespects you, they are telling you exactly how they see you and what they think they can get away with. Pay attention. Who undermines you when you succeed? That's envy exposing itself. Who disrespects you privately but behaves respectfully in public? That's cowardice. Someone afraid of consequences, not principles. Who becomes irritated the moment you enforce a boundary? That's exploitation, being interrupted. Who suddenly treats you differently when your status improves? That's opportunism. They were never loyal, only waiting. Machiavelli warned that most enemies don't confront you. They smile, they compliment, they pretend alignment while quietly calculating advantage. Disrespect is how they slip. It shows you who should never be trusted with access, who should never receive information, who should never be allowed proximity to your plans, your energy, or your future. When you take disrespect personally, you weaken yourself. When you treat it as intelligence, you sharpen. You stop explaining. You stop correcting. You stop hoping people will change. You simply adjust access. That's when you become dangerous. Not loud, not aggressive, not reactive, but precise. Cold, selective, unbothered. Because you are no longer guessing who people are. They've already told you. Affirm it. Disrespect reveals truth. When you apply these principles consistently, something irreversible happens. People stop testing you. Not because you argue, not because you threaten, but because experience taught them it's not worth it. And that is real power.